Hi, and welcome to Living with Hep B. This is a series in which we catch up with folks living with hepatitis B just to have a casual conversation and see what they're doing in life. My name is Richard So. I'm Executive Director of SF Hep B Free Bay Area, an organization that looks to improve awareness about hepatitis B and the liver cancer it causes, and also make sure that those who need to be tested do get tested. Today I have with me, you may recognize him, Wang from a documentary, the Be About It documentary. And I believe that was in, you said 2014?
2014, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a little more than 6 years now. So glad to be able to catch up with you and see what's going on in your life. And so thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for checking back with me.
So I feel like, first, I mean, what's your life like? Has Hep B affected your life more? Do you even think about it these days?
You know, if you watched Be About It 6 years ago, that was a pretty intense situation that was going on because I had great testing, the ultrasounds were coming back, and it just so happened while they were filming that documentary, they saw an anomaly in the ultrasound. They made me come in, do an MRI, and then I had to wait 2 weeks to find out what this was. And what they told me was, well, we found a bunch of nodules on your liver. And that was a very scary time because to me, nothing is good about having a bunch of nodules on your liver.
Right.
And so, you know, it captured a lot of some really intense moments of me just kind of pondering, you know, my life and, you know, was I going to live? Because, you know, liver cancer can be a death sentence sometimes. And so it really did change. I think it changed my outlook on life and how I spend my time, how I work. You know, it's definitely made me focus on quality of life.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think, so before that, you had found out that you had Hep B and you had done kind of the responsible thing, had been managing it with your doctor. And after finding out and managing it, that was pretty easy. You just went to your doctor and had some of those scans every now and then. And then did you feel pretty like I'm doing the right steps and that this is just, otherwise life is pretty normal?
Yeah, I mean, it's very normal. You know, a lot of people ask me, you send a lot of people to me and say, hey, Alan, you know, can you talk to this guy? He's freaking out.
Right.
Just found out he's chronic Hep B. And these people are really stressed out. They're practically in tears calling me. And because they think, you know, whatever they have to go through is going to be life-altering. You know, they're probably going to die. And it's really not like that. For me, I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to take a pill for the rest of my life, and that's going to cramp my style, and it doesn't. If you have a routine, if you brush your teeth every day, if you comb your hair, you know, it just becomes part of the routine. You know? Pop that pill along with, you know, I take milk thistle, that kind of cleanses your liver. I take some other, you know, vitamins and things for your joints, and you know, I'm 54 now, and I think it was 49 when we did that documentary. And so it's just part of your daily routine. And in fact, my life has gotten even better in terms of just liver health because about 2 years after that, I went to my doctor, Dr. Gish, who's featured in the film. He has a quick little cameo, and he said, Alan, you know, the MRIs have gotten better. We're going to take you down to Stanford, and we want to do this. And so he got a really good color vision of my that's my wiener dog walking through here.
Yeah.
Come here, Weenie. This is Howard Long right here.
Cameo right here. Plug it in.
Okay. Because now they can really take small slices and pictures of your liver. And he came back to me and said, Alan, you've been on antivirals for, 15, 20 years? Probably, yeah, about that much.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, when I first saw you, you had some scarring on your liver, which can lead to liver cancer, and that's what was scary. And today I'm looking at your MRI, and it looks like you have a brand new liver. It's pink, it's beautiful, the shape is wonderful, and what it did, being on those antivirals, suppressed the virus long enough for my liver to regenerate. I mean, the human body is an amazing thing.
Right.
So, I mean, that's, so for people who are scared or whatever, the great thing is this isn't cancer. There's treatment, and if you have cancer, that's a scary thing. It's fascinating what modern medicine has done, especially in the world of antivirals.
Yeah. And I think, Alan, you've touched on an excellent point in terms of this is one of those diseases that you were lucky enough to catch when it's just in its virus form and hasn't become the cancer, and therefore there's so much we can do. And I think as new people get diagnosed, sometimes they don't know because not a lot of information, even today, is still out there about Hep B, and people hear about that it might cause liver cancer. Well, does this mean I'm going to get liver cancer no matter what? Other diseases, they say, this will progress to liver cancer, or people go, is it the same as an initial diagnosis of beginning stage liver cancer, which is definitely not. And we can show, your story alone is proof that with this good management and that doesn't affect your life that much, that people can stay really healthy. I wanted to ask how this might have affected your relationship life. I've actually, as an executive director, have gotten 2 different messages of people really worried about their girlfriend or their wife and what that means for their future relationship or kids.
Yeah, so for my family, early on when I was diagnosed with this was in the 90s, and even today, there's not a whole lot of information that doctors are giving their patients because, quite frankly, a lot of doctors don't come across Hep B patients or they may have a handful of Asian patients, and they're just not paying attention to us. And so I didn't get the education I needed. So Jill was my girlfriend at the time. I infected her. It passed through her. As you know, the virus, most adults who get it will show that they had it. They'll have the antigen, but their body will
beat it.
Yes, beat it. The majority of people who are chronic hepatitis B are those who were essentially like me. They were born, they contracted it at birth. Right. Because from what we know that pregnant women, their viral loads are very high because they're just putting everything they got into that baby, and they become very susceptible to it. So when the baby's being born, they're exposed to all those fluids. And that's where me and all of my siblings were exposed to it. And the statistic 1 out of 4 is chronic holds true. Out of 4 siblings, I'm the only one who's chronic.
Wow. Yeah. And then now did Jill have to be concerned after she was infected? No, she cleared it like most adults right away.
Yes, right? But it was scary to her because no doctor sat her down and said, here's what typically happens. They just didn't know, right? And so she went through this phase of just being scared to death. We were both scared to death. And so like many patients, we had to connect the dots ourselves. The doctors didn't tell my brother and sister, when they were diagnosed with it, they donated blood and they were rejected. They didn't say, okay, here's what you have to do. Let's take a history of your family. You need to talk to your family members. You need to tell all of them to go get tested. None of that happened. We were all just kind of scratching our heads, and then we finally added it all up and realized, 3 of my mom's brothers who died of liver cancer were always jaundiced. Right. They died of liver cancer. They were likely hepatitis B positive too. So it's a battle against ignorance is what this is. That's what's sad about it. There's treatment. We're just fighting ignorance.
People don't know about it. Right. And especially since the disease doesn't, you don't feel sick until usually by the time you get that liver cancer, and then you have all these tragic stories. We've in our work have seen so many times when it's uncles or fathers who seem perfectly fine and then go in for a medical appointment and they either already have the late stage liver cancer by the time they feel pain, or they've discovered that they might have liver cancer but hasn't told the rest of their family. You know, generations before us, maybe even in your generation, you have a lot of people not wanting to share about sickness in their families. It brings sometimes bad luck or misfortune, and that's such a tragic thing. And one of the things we hope to do here is educate that we can do something when it's just a virus, and even if it has progressed to liver cancer, it's so important to tell the rest of the family so that nobody in the rest of the family has this risk that can become liver cancer. I'm wondering what this meant for your kids, now that you have kids, wonderful teenagers, about hepatitis B transmission, and what that means for everyone who may not know and might be saying, well, if I have kids in the future, are they going to automatically get this disease?
Yeah, I think my kids just growing up with me being a spokesperson for this, and we talk about it a lot, it's just been with them their whole lives, right? And it's been with you your whole life. You kind of grew up with it. And so it doesn't scare them. They don't think about it a whole lot. They know that when they were born, they were vaccinated since, 1980, 85?
Early 90s, I think. It became standard in most places. So for children who are born, their pregnant moms get tested for Hep B, and if they do, they automatically get that vaccine. And then now, I believe in school, it's required to start school. So yeah, that's absolutely right. Now, most of people born in the United States are going to not be having to worry about this. But again, it's many of those immigrants coming in, people who are aunts and uncles now who come straight from Asia.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where we're seeing most of it.
Right. I'm wondering, now that you've kind of been through the gauntlet, you did this amazing documentary, and now your life is like pretty much totally normal, and you still do the checks every now and then. What would you say going for those people who might be watching this video, who might have just got that slip and says you are chronically hepatitis B positive, and they will want to talk to someone? What would you tell them right now?
I would say you're lucky that the medicine and the research around this is growing. I mean, these pharmaceutical companies are on the cutting edge. There's tons of antivirals, vaccinations that are going through, 1, 2, or in stage 3 of trials already. There's a lot of hope, that we are this close to finding a cure. There's already a cure for hepatitis C, right? So, in the world of diseases, I think you should be lucky that, you don't have cancer. Yeah.
Hopefully not yet.
Yeah. Not yet. But that's all, you should always be monitoring your health. And, it's, your body's like your only body. It's like if you got a car and you care about your car, you're constantly shining it and checking the oil and everything. You should do the same thing about your body.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, the great thing is that there's a lot of medical research and cutting edge, treatment that's out there. And you're more than likely going to be fine.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we tell people when we're out in the community working. It's so many times people, and you see this problem with people just going to see their the doctor for their annual physical. Yeah. I feel fine. I don't need this. Why? When I feel some pain, I'll do something about it. But just getting checked, like taking care of your body, you check, you do your oil change on your car. Just to do that, this 5-minute test can make sure whether you have this virus, and then you do just what Alan did, and you go to your doctor, you manage this disease, and it'll be fine. And the vast majority you're just gonna live a normal, full life. And even if it does, Alan talked about when he first had that test that came back with some nodules, it's just about being diligent, not panicking, like just thinking about what your choices are, what that means. And in most cases, still, I believe it's something like 60 to 70% who have chronic Hep B won't progress to, if they're under management, whether that be just seeing their doctor or taking the antiviral, will live full, healthy lives.
And by the way, the nodules were never there. The guy had a new machine, sonogram, ultrasound machine. They calibrated it wrong, and they saw something that just wasn't there. And I was like, Great, thanks for scaring the
Yeah.
hell out of me. But
Right.
you know what people should be scared about is not talking about it,
Right.
not having conversations with their families and friends. If you're not talking about it and if you're not educating people to go get a simple test, then that's what you should be afraid of. That's when, you know, your friends or your family member goes to the doctor because they're in pain and they find out they're in stage 4 liver cancer
Yeah.
because it's asymptomatic. There
Yeah.
are no symptoms. So, you know, if you've got this potentially ticking time bomb in walking around in one of your family members or yourself, man, you better start talking about it. And that's what cracks, it kills me because, you know, for a culture of people who value education
Right.
and family as much as we do, how is it that we don't want to talk about this because it's bad luck?
Right. So what do we do every New Year? Toast a new year of health and prosperity.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, you know, sometimes it's those grandparents who may already know that they might have some of this, and they're like, no, it's a new year. We can't talk about this.
Yeah,
I just said it, but we're not going to talk
It's
about
just
it.
ignorance.
Yeah. So I think you hit it on the dot or on the head right there. It's you know, even recently, I was just telling my coworker, I had a friend, we just had our annual fundraiser, and he really wanted to attend virtually. And I said, why? You don't have to, thanks for being my friend. He says, actually, I have hepatitis B, chronic hepatitis B. And I think he's like 25 or 27. Wow. And I immediately said, are you being managed? And he's like, I think so. And I'm like, what?
That means no.
Yeah. And I said, well, so you should be seeing your doctor twice a year now and doing an ultrasound once a year. And he goes, yeah, so I have started doing that ultrasound, but I maybe should see him twice a year. And so I, did my due diligence and said, is your doctor Asian? Does he know about the increased case for liver cancer? And he says, let me call my doctor. Let me email my doctor, shoot him a message. And so for me, that really hits home because I've been saying all this while that now younger folks are, tested when they're born and made sure not to get it. But this is a guy, I believe he's Filipino, maybe was born outside the United States, and he wasn't sure about his management. So this is something that I think still needs to be talked about, just like you said, even among younger folks and people coming in to the country now. I think, is there anything else that you wanted to say in regards to this, or let folks know, or any reassuring words we can finish this up with?
I think that it's scary, right? Hepatitis B is scary, but it's not as scary as you think it is. It's really not. And oftentimes people are like, how do you feel about talking about this? Right. There's so much stigma involved with Hep B, like, you're unclean, you're sexually promiscuous, you're a drug user. That is not the case for hepatitis B. The majority of people contract it at birth, and even so, you can't be ashamed to talk about this. People are like, I was a news anchor, and I made that decision because the decision for me was, by talking about this, I could potentially save somebody's life. Right? And if we all talk about this, you could potentially save somebody's life. So that's just a no-brainer. If you're afraid to talk about it because of, what people are going to think about you, that's just all ego. You got to put that aside, because when you're dead, you don't have an ego.
Right. I think that's a perfect way to end it. When we're out there, I will say the most probably satisfying thing that I've experienced is to have someone come back and say, hey, I heard your story. I tried to tell a bunch of people. They said, yeah, and said, but I got tested, and turns out I have Hep B. And I would have never known. I go to my physical. I've never had to, if you didn't know, hepatitis B isn't on your annual physical. I specifically asked my doctor because of your presentation. And now, he said, I'm totally fine and I just need to manage it. And, I could have been that 1 in 4 who dies from liver cancer. but now I'm not. And so this is one of those things that we say time and time again. You hear over public health all the time again. Oh, tell other people, education. But this is really one of those things that you can really save lives by sharing this message.
And you've got to save your own life, because your dad, who is a leading hepatologist in the world of hepatitis B, did a survey for Stanford. And didn't they find out that the majority of doctors didn't even know what to check off on the blood test panel so that you could go get tested?
Yeah, they did it was, I think, in the early 2000s, did a survey of primary care physicians, and most of them not only were unsure of what tests to order on the little sheet that's sent to the lab, but once they got the results back, were unsure about how to read those results confidently to then tell their patients. I mean, if they don't know it, how confidently, it makes sense why doctors, especially in the 90s, may look at that test result and be like, wait, does this mean that he has it?
Yeah.
Or am I supposed to say that this is... So fortunately, those things have gotten a little bit better, we hope. And there are some data showing that is, especially in Asian areas of the United States, where doctors are a little more competent in that.
Right.
But,
So you got to be your own health advocate. You really do. Another friend of mine who got the vaccine, it's a 3-shot vaccine still. She asked her doctor, so after my 3rd shot, when am I safe to be sexually active? He didn't know. Are you safe after the 3rd shot?
Yeah.
Do you have to wait a little longer before it sinks in?
Yeah.
He didn't know.
Yeah, it's tough. There's always issues. The best you can do is keep asking questions for your doctor. And, that's the thing that's going to make doctors pay attention more, when their patients ask more questions. And that's why, again, Alan's saying, talk about the issue. When patients ask doctors, hey, what about this Hep B thing? The vaccine, is it 2 doses now or 3 doses? What does that mean for my life? And what's the distance between that? That will make doctors be more interested in learning more about the issue, which is so important for our work anyway.
Yeah, you got to push your doctor to educate themselves. Yeah. Because in all honesty, a job is a job. If you're a doctor after, 20 years, you're not necessarily always keeping up with the latest
some things,
right? One of my friends, he's a doctor. He likes living next to or practicing next to a university because the latest information out of that medical school is coming out. Well, if you're a doctor out in some rural country, you're just doing the same thing you did for the past 20 years, and you're not keeping up with this stuff. So, doctors are not all-knowing people.
Infallible, yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome. I think we talked about a lot of important issues for people to hear about, and in a kind of situation that's a little more homey. Thank you for inviting us into your wonderful home here. And so hopefully we'll be able to put out a bunch more of these and talk to lots of different people, and maybe we'll have you back on someday, maybe another update. But until then,
always happy.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it.